So, inshallah, I will stop here and we'll take questions. Sister, you had a question? You forgot the question? Sorry about that. In future, when you come, bring a pen with you. That way you can make a note. It wasn't important. I'm sure it was important. If you want to ask, it must have been important. Inshallah. Inshallah, hopefully you remember it before we close. If you do, just stick your hand up. Huh? Okay, somebody from this side had their hand up. Want to ask a question? Yes, please. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I know this talk was more on the extremism on the side. I have a experience with my cousin who refused to come for the gatherings of my family because she says she doesn't eat the yasin and she doesn't do the
Tasbih.
I mean, I think everyone here in Malaysia knows we have what's called Sendiri Tahlil for the one who has passed away. But really, I understand that we don't have to do the 7 days or the 40 days, but we just want to gather the family together to be one. I mean, for my father, it's very sad that his wife has passed away. But my cousin actually said her father doesn't do the ritual, so he's not coming, and she's not coming as well, so they didn't come. So the question here is, to be seen as a united ummah, okay, to counter the secularism. I feel that personally you should come, even though you feel this is bid'ah. You should come in respect of my dad, her uncle. You should come for the family ummah. So when they don't come, there is a separation between those who believe in that and those who think that's bid'ah. That's one. And I feel the reason today why the Muslim ummah is very much at stake is because we are not united. Therefore, the secular Western people are just attacking us like anything. That's one. And number two, I think morality, yes, we have to take morality, but we have to help each other for education. When a person wants to educate himself to go forward for anything, the Muslim Ummah here must give the money for education. But I see the Muslim in my country, you can give money to a lot of people who's got their house burned down, or those people suffering in Palestine or in Myanmar or whatever. But when a single Muslim person here, be it a Malay or a Chinese or Indian, who wants to go forward to study, to gain knowledge, to counter the CNN, to counter the BBC, nobody's willing to give any money in my country. They'd rather go for Umrah every year. Or
okay,
inshallah.
Okay. All right, the first point that you raised with regards to the practice, I guess you call it what? Tahleel? Tahleel, when a person dies, which you accepted that your relative looks at it as bid'ah, as innovation. As I mentioned, the Prophet ﷺ had said, every innovation is misguidance, that you said or suggested that we should come together for the sake of unity, because unity of Muslims is given precedence or should be given precedence over the differences that they hold amongst themselves. And it is true that the unity is important, but at the same time, if the unity is not on the basis of the Quran and the Sunnah, then it is a false unity. You see, it is maybe physical unity. Externally, we've come together physically, but that unity does not have, as the Prophet ﷺ had said, Yadullah al-Jama'ah, Allah's hand is above the ummah, the community, which is joined together, and that whoever splits off from the community, splits off into the hellfire, is devoured by the wolves. This, what the Prophet ﷺ spoke about was that unity based on the Quran and the Sunnah. Because we have unity right now in the Muslim world based on ethnicity. That is where we have the unity. We are unified as one nation. We're all Malays, we have one nation. all the Filipinos, they have one nation. Maldivians have one nation. Our nations are ethnic. But in fact, Prophet Muhammad ﷺ had said, whoever calls to nationalism is not of us. He was opposed to nationalism. So this grouping on a national basis, because we look alike or because we speak the same language, that is the basis of us coming together. And in that, we will give precedence to people of that community who maybe are even non-Muslims over Muslims from other communities. You know, and this is where the evil now comes from, that type of unity. You know, so we have to say that I would, in spite of, you know, how you feel about this situation, I would agree with your cousin and her father in this way. I would suggest that perhaps maybe they should come and spread the message. Not come and participate, but come and spread the message. This is how I would invite. So the unity comes based on trying to do what is right. So yes, come, but spread the message. But perhaps they have tried in the past. You know, I don't know. So I can't judge what they're doing, right? Maybe they have tried 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, and they feel, okay, we've tried. And the rest of the family is not interested. They don't want to come to what is right. So we'll just now have to stop. We've tried enough. You know, that may be their judgment. So I'm not making a judgment of them. But normally speaking, we are Islamically not supposed to participate in religious innovative practices. If we join in with the people, we join in only from the perspective of correcting. If we have a position, we have an opportunity to present to them, well, okay, people, we're gathered here for this practice, but in fact, this practice is not from the Sunnah. Here, we're distributing amongst people the authentic hadiths and so and so, which tell us that this is not the way to do it. And also, not just to saying we don't do this, but saying, what did Prophet Muhammad ﷺ do? You know, what did he do? How did he do it? When somebody died, what was his practice? What did he tell people to do? So let us try to go back to his way. Because this is the way which is ultimately pleasing to Allah. This is the one which, you know, Allah will reward us for. The other ones are not pleasing to Allah, will not reward us. Yeah, we might feel good. You know, this is a feel-good gathering. But in the end, what is it about? Is it about pleasing Allah or pleasing our family members? Okay? The other issue about education, of course, I agree with you 100%. We need to stress the importance of education and promote it and support it. And as I said, that education should be Islamically governed education or Islamically infused education. Not just simply to go out and become an architect or a lawyer or a doctor, etc., but one who is guided Islamically so that that person will come back and be a productive member of the Muslim Ummah and not just be a person who's found a profession that will make them a lot of money. They were poor before, now they become rich. Okay, we heard that the US, Britain, Australia figured that you are preaching extremism. We don't believe them. Please clarify why they refuse entry for you. I think I just told you. I spoke out about the homosexuality, and this is on the this is on YouTube. And of course, even my lectures when I went to Germany was not about that at all. The lecture in Germany, in Sweden, and in Denmark were about Islamophobia and how the Muslim community should deal with, should confront this attack on the community, you know. So it was quite the opposite, but Allahu Akbar. Anyway, in terms of Britain, of course, British, they said, okay, I promote terrorism. How? They said in 1995, you were asked a question on Sharjah television whether suicide bombing was permissible, and you said it might be a military tactic. In 1995, when the Palestinians were fighting against the Israelis, they used to wait for the Israeli bus of troops, right? The troop bus. And when it stopped and they would open the door, maybe somebody to go out buy something, they would jump into the bus, blow themselves up, and blow up a whole bunch of Israeli troops. So at that time I said, it may be considered a military tactic. When they started to blow up themselves in restaurants and supermarkets and, bus stations, at that time I said, haram. It is not allowed. This is no longer, even if what you were doing before was questionable, this is now clearly haram. But they left all of those other lectures and focused on this one. They say, oh, you said might be a military tactic. Therefore, you are promoting suicide bombing and terrorism. So you, along with Zakir Naik and Hussein Yi, are banned from the UK for the next 3 years. All right. In a multinational society, when we promote Islamic, I'm going to give very short answers now because we've got a whole stack of questions. I don't know, what is our time? What are we good for? Huh? 12. Huh? Okay, 12:15. Okay, let me try to, okay. In a multinational society, when we promote Islamic morality, how do we counter the indoctrination of moral relativism? How do we counter the indoctrination of moral relativism? Well, we do so by setting up our own schools where we are able to teach Islamic morality, where it has an impact on the members of that school, producing good students academically as well as morally sound students for the society. And our schools will become known when we maintain high standards that are Islamic. They will become known eventually in the society and impact on the society as a whole, inshallah. In spite of great challenges the Muslims are facing today, statistics show that many European Americans are coming into Islam. Will there be a positive effect as a result of this phenomena? Yes, there's a big negative effect, of course, and that is the intensity at which pressure is being put on Muslims in the Western societies. But as we said, it is a result of the awakening of Muslims. They were not saying and doing these things 25 years ago because Muslims were sleeping then. As soon as Muslims awoke, then they felt a need. So actually, it's not a bad sign. It's actually a good sign. It means that Islam is getting stronger. And that's why their reaction to it is getting stronger. So it's a good sign from that perspective. Why some Muslims eat with the right hand but drink with the left hand? They know the sunnah is using the right hand when eating and drinking, but they're using the left hand. Can you please explain, Dr. Bilal? Well, that's true. This is one of the innovations of our time, where people want to drink. So, because they're eating with their right hand, they don't want to put their greasy hand on the cup. So they say, pick it up with the left hand, put your right hand underneath and drink, something like this, or touch it with your finger, whatever, Of course, this is haram. To drink with your left hand is haram. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ had said, do not drink with your left hand. Satan drinks with his left. So you're putting your hand underneath, doesn't mean you're drinking with your right hand. When you move your right hand away, what happens? Glass is still there, right? If you are drinking really with the, if you remove your left hand, what happens? So we know you are not drinking with your right hand. This is only symbolic. We're saying, okay, symbol to the right of the right, I'm touching it here, putting it here, but really I'm drinking with my left. But actually, this is a major, widespread haram. People say, okay, this is a little thing. We have Muslims dying in Palestine, you're talking about, eating and drinking with your left hand. But the reality is that if we cannot conform to the rules and the commandments of Rasulullah ﷺ in such a simple act, like drinking with the right, then what can we do for Palestine? What can we do? We're fooling ourselves, Some Muslims are confused about Islam. They think that when acting good is one method to go to paradise, even without salah. They also confuse iman. How to convince them? Okay, the idea of good things. You do good deeds. That this should make up for the other things that you do, like salah. You don't do salah, for example. So you do other good deeds, and then that balances this with that. Doesn't it? Well, Prophet ﷺ had said, the first thing that the believer will be asked about on the Day of Judgment is salah. Not about the good things you did, but salah. And it's not like regular examinations, if you get 50% in salah or 40, but you got 60 in fasting and you got, 80 in good deeds, that your average now is above 60, so you're passed. No. If you failed salah, you failed everything after that. Nothing else counts after that. If you don't have salah, because Prophet ﷺ said, Al-ahd alladhi baynana wa baynahum as-salah, faman tarakahu faqad kafar. That the bond, the distinction between us and the disbelievers is salah. Whoever abandons it has fallen into disbelief. So that's the bottom line. Good deeds are required. And for the non-Muslims, of course, is what they say. Hey, we do all these good deeds. Mother Teresa, all the good that she did, and you're saying she's going to hell? Well, actually, we can't say she's going to hell. We can't, because we don't have the right to say anybody is going to hell except those who Allah said and the Messenger of Allah said. But we don't have that right. But we say that, yes, if she died believing those things, believing that God became a man who was his own son, and at the same time himself, and was sacrificed for human beings, and now sits on the right side of himself, we say those who have this belief, yes, Allah said this is disbelief. It's disbelief. So, no matter all the good you do, after that, when you hold this kind of a belief, then that good has no value. In any case, good can be done by people for a variety of different intentions. Simply because they did good didn't necessarily mean that it was really good. Because some people do good in order to control others, to win their favor. Well, I did this for you, then I want you to do this for me. They did it to show off, to make you think that I am this and think of. People do it for all kinds of reasons. So, I feel uncomfortable living in the United States. Then get out of the United States. Okay, I feel uncomfortable to let the people around me know that I am a Muslim because I may appear as a religious extremist with my abaya and niqab as my attire. Can I dress modestly but not to be identified as a Muslim by them? Well, if dressing modestly means you don't wear hijab, then you can't. Basic Muslim dress for a woman and for a man has modesty in it, as its essence. It is essentially modest. But modesty is in accordance with what Allah considers to be modest. And what the Prophet ﷺ has clarified for us is modesty. Because some women may wear miniskirts just above their knee and feel they're modest. The others are wearing micro minis, and so they're wearing a mini to their knee. They say, I'm modest. So modesty can be a very relative thing depending on the society. So we have to use the modesty which has been defined by Allah and His Messenger, not the modesty according to what the society may consider to be modest. May I know the Islamic view on suicide bombers? Basically haram. Right? But as I said, in a military circumstance where you have a general, you have an army, they're fighting, it's jihad, etc., and they see a circumstance where some people will have to sacrifice. They call it in military terminology a suicide mission. The West knows it. The suicide mission, where you are sent to do something and you are likely not to return. Right? There's no way you're going to return. You're dead. Right? But you're doing it for the greater good, to save harm that is coming to a greater number. You take that. So a military commander can ask volunteers who will go and do this. It's possible. But as a norm, taking one's life is haram in Islam. Can we say those who are trying to stop people from propagating Quran and Sunnah are extremists? Yes, they are the extremists, the real extremists. Those who are opposed to the Quran and the Sunnah. Wearing of a garment, black, over our dress is the custom or requirement by the Prophet ﷺ. Is this outer garment, the outer garment, is this a requirement? Yes. Does it have to be black? No. But an outer garment which covers the main dress, that is established in the Quran, in the Sunnah also. Customs, again, people have become used to particular styles of dress, etc. But that is the full Islamic hijab. When a dog licks our clothes, do we need to clean it? No. This is a mistaken idea people have about dogs, you know. A dog licks you, oh, you know, you have to go wash it 7 times, 1 time with earth. No, 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 no. This is just if the dog eats or drinks from the vessel you're eating and drinking in, you pour it out, let him finish his drink and eat, and then you clean it 7 times, 1 of the times with earth, right? Clean earth. That's what's required. But a dog licking you does not break your wudu. Patting a dog does not break your wudu. Actually, dogs, you know, though they have become sort of like an evil in the Muslim society, you know. People see a dog, and a lot of the Westerners I know would tell me, what's wrong with you Muslims? As soon as we come with our dogs, Muslims are running in all directions. They can't understand it because, of course, for them, the dog is the man's best friend, right? They sleep with the dog, they put clothes on the dog in winter, and, you know. So we are running, you know, but we are overreacting. We've become extreme in our dealings with the dog. Because it is very clear in the Quran, you have hunting dogs, you know, you hunt with the dog. The dog goes, when you shoot the bird, the dog goes and gets the bird and brings it back to you. Is he bringing it back in his paws, on his front feet? He's bringing it back in his mouth, and then you're cooking and eating it. So, you know, the point is that the saliva of the dog is what's, you know, harmful. There's harm in it. That's why the Prophet ﷺ said for us to wash it, etc.
How about as a pet?
As a pet, it is okay to keep a dog as a pet, but not in your home. Not in your home, you know. And really, as a pet, you know, it is preferable that he has a function. If he's a guard dog, you know, he's providing protection for the home. The sheep dog, you know, which herds the sheep or herds the camel, this is also well recognized in Islam. And you have to treat him right. You know, you can't be kicking him left and right and stoning him, and then you ask him to watch your sheep for you. He's going to eat the sheep. He'll eat the sheep. You know? So, what is the correlation between Shia, Sufism, Tariqah, Tasawwuf? I think we dealt with that already. How to refute those who said Wahhabism leans towards extremism? Well, there's no such thing as Wahhabism, first and foremost. Wahhabism is a name made by the British, in order to defame the movement of Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, right? So it's not, this term Wahhabism is a false name. But because of the fact that what he was calling to in his time had become so strange in the Ummah, he was labeled as extremist. He called to the leveling of graves in the graveyard, for example. In Mecca and Medina, people, the Muslim world was upset because graveyards had become places of huge architectural construction, you know, big domes and, you know. So he came and he leveled it all. They said, what is this? Destroying the artifacts, you know, these religious artifacts as they saw it. But really, he was only doing the Prophet ﷺ's command when the Prophet ﷺ said to Ali ibn Abi Talib, go out and any grave you see more than a palm's width above the ground, level it with the ground. He was only doing what the Prophet ﷺ had commanded. But because that had become unknown, ignorance, what's become so widespread, then his act was seen as sacrilege, as apostasy. So Wahhabism, the name given by the British, became the label to mean really apostate, heretic, extremist. So this, the only thing that we can do, of course, is to clarify that this is in fact incorrect labeling, and to explain what the teachings of Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab actually were. When a person says, you Wahhabis, we ask them, what is a Wahhabi? Clarify for us, what is a Wahhabi? Wahhabis are people who hate the Messenger of Allah. That's what they say. They hate Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Why? Why are you saying they hate Prophet Muhammad? Because they won't allow us to make sujood at his grave. Okay, that's not hating. That is doing what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, instructed us, not to make his grave a place of congregation and worship. You go, you give your salam. So they're very strict about it. There in Medina, you can't perform worship, at the grave. So this was, you need to just ask them, what do you mean by it? And you look at all of the issues, and you can clarify that, in fact, this is not what people believe. How do you advise those Salafi who rejects madhabs and stick only to the Quran and Sunnah? Well, we have to understand that the madhab in general was an effort, a result of an effort by early scholars to follow the only madhab there is in Islam. And that is the madhab of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We have to understand that perspective, both sides. That there is only one madhab. And that is the madhab of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That is the madhab followed by Abu Bakr, by Umar, by Uthman, by Ali, and by the Imams themselves. Because Abu Hanifa wasn't a Hanafi. Imam Malik wasn't a Maliki. Shafi'i wasn't a Shafi'i. Nor was Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal a Hanbali. That's reality. Of course, people never didn't stop to think about that, You say that to them, Imam Shafi'i wasn't a Shafi'i. They say, what do you mean by that? Of course he was a Shafi'i. That's where Shafi'i comes from. No. Imam Shafi'i was not a Shafi'i. He taught the madhab of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's why he said, إِذَا صَحَّ الْحَدِيث فَهُوَ مَذْهَبِي. If the hadith is found to be authentic, then that is my madhab. Abu Hanifa said the same thing. So that's clear that he wasn't a Shafi'i. He was a follower of the madhab of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But the idea to go to the other extreme and say, oh, madhabs are bid'ah, deviation. No, that's the other extreme. We don't need to go there either. We understand what the madhabs are. They are efforts to try to follow the madhab of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we have to know their limitations, that all of them contain errors. This madhab, we call it the group obsession, where it has led people of the madhabs to say, all madhabs are correct, but you must follow one. Otherwise, your imam is shaitan. Right? This is another extreme. We don't need to go there either, because the problem is, if we say all madhabs are correct, then we fall into the same trap that the Christians fell into. When they said 1 + 1 + 1 = 1, right? God is 3 in 1. God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit, one God. To accept that, you have to turn off your brain. Right? Your intellect, your reasoning powers, you have to turn it off, and that's blind faith. I accept it. Similarly, to accept that all the madhabs are correct, when Shafi'i madhab says, you touch a woman accidentally, your wudu is broken. Hanafi says, if you touch a woman, your wudu is not broken. Then it means you have to accept it is possible for you to have wudu and not have wudu at the same time. Turn your brain off. Same thing. Common sense tells you it's not possible. Either you have wudu or you don't have wudu. Right? So one of them was right. Now we need to find out which one. A few weeks ago, I read that a certain sect of fundamentalist Christians, Oprah Winfrey, is promoting the idea of acceptance of the alternative lifestyle. She is considered an instrument that misled the masses. My question, what do you, or how do you, I guess, answer these claims? As I said, the claims of the homosexuals, you can go to YouTube, click, or put in Islam, homosexuality. There's a 1 hour or 30-minute lecture, half an hour lecture on Islam, exposing the falseness of the various arguments of the homosexuals. What is Islamically accepted balance when socializing with non-Muslims, Shias and Sufis? Well, the balance is to maintain the Quran and the Sunnah, to educate them as best as we can to it, spread literature, material around, discuss with them in the best way, not come in there and you all are going to hell. This is not going to get us anywhere, right? People just close their ears, don't want to hear that. Even a Christian, you come and try to give dawah to him, saying, you're going to hell, I'm trying to save you from hell. No, this is not the way to give dawah. You have to win over hearts, to establish relationships. Then you try to bring across the ideas focusing on the priority. Where are the priorities? We focus on the priorities, then we shift to the other secondary issues. Since democracy is a form of secularism, what is our stance towards democracy? Well, it depends on where you are. In India, democracy, secularism is actually a good thing for Muslims. Because if the rule of the country is according to Hindu nationalism, then we would be in big trouble. So secularism, democracy has its good points there. And in the West, where it is functioning like that, we have to recognize it's better for us. That's the lesser of the evils, right? So though as a principle, we reject that human life should be governed by secular democracy, practically speaking, in certain circumstances around the world where we are in a minority, etc., we may support that system to protect ourselves from the evils of the alternatives. Right? But if for a Muslim society where Muslims are in control, etc., then definitely it becomes an evil. And what should be applied should be the Sharia. The theology of ideology of Sufism or Shiism is on rapid rise in Malaysia, I guess Shiaism. By denying the authority, I guess, of the Sahaba and the Sunnah, any advice for quick, I guess, tips that we can give these people who are influenced by the Shia? Very difficult in the presence of taqiyya. Well, the main thing to focus on when discussing with Shia, again, is the most important issue, and that is of Allah and Tawheed, where their imams are elevated as intermediaries. That is the most critical point. Because the fact that they may have other issues and practices which we don't recognize or we don't accept, whether it's mut'ah or other different things, these are fiqh issues, these are minor issues in comparison to this big major issue. So this is where we need to focus. Of course, they'll try to take us to history and what happened to Fatima and the lands, Abu Bakr and this, and they try to go into this here, but we said these are political issues, which people differ about. Let's get to basics. The basics are about Allah and our relationship to Allah, how we worship, etc. That's what we need to focus on. And know that in their system, they don't say we're non-Muslims. But what they do is they have two classes of Muslims. There are believers and just plain Muslims. Muslimun and mu'minun. And they clearly say that only the mu'minun are going to paradise. So they look at the rest of us Muslims as going to hell. That's their belief, and it's in their books. You ask them, are we mu'min? No, they'll tell you clearly, we cannot be a mu'min. You cannot be a mu'min unless you believe in the imams. That is one of their pillars of iman. As we have 6 pillars of iman, one of their pillars is belief in the imam as being infallible, omniscient, omnipotent. This is fundamental principle of their belief. So you cannot be a mu'min unless you hold that. And only the mu'mins are going to paradise. What are your views on the society that perceives Islam and terrorism or extremism through information from websites, internet? What is the credibility of information on the websites regarding extremism, particularly on Islam? Well, of course, if we want to know about Islamic positions, etc., we have to go to reliable websites, you know, where there are reliable scholars connected to it. You know, we can get accurate information as opposed to just anything that's out there, though it's got an Islamic name on it. Just like the books. When you go to the bookstore, you know, you want to know, is this a good book? It's not a good book. Okay, pick up the book, open, look on the pages. If what they're saying in there, it's being supported by hadith, supported by verses from the Quran, footnotes telling you the hadith, it's authentic, it's in Bukhari, it's in Muslim, so on, so on, so on. You got referencing, then you can read this book. You know, there probably will be benefit in it. It's not 100% because sometimes they may do this and have false hadiths. You know, so it's not absolute. But the point is that if you open up a book and all you see is the words of the writer, his opinions, his thoughts, etc., maybe one verse here, all words, and watch out. This is not a source of learning. This is opinionated material that's being given to you, subjective. It's not objective. The objective view is to look at it from the Quran and the Sunnah. So you should see that firmly established in the writing. That's how you know what are good books and what are not good books. To do all the examples of Rasulullah is something which is practically impossible for us to emulate. No? It's not impossible. It's not impossible. What is internal, we cannot. You know what had to do with the Prophet ﷺ's iman, we cannot. He had revelation, we don't. But in terms of his practice, we can emulate that practice. The outer aspects of the practice, we can. And we strive to make that outer a way and a means of strengthening our inner. So we should not think that it's not possible to imitate or to emulate the Prophet ﷺ. Of course, when we go to extremes, where we start to think that things which the Prophet ﷺ did as what we call natural sunnah, we now take it on as something obligatory for ourselves, or give it status beyond its worth. You know, this is when we can fall into extremist points of view. Like, for example, there's a book on the market printed from Pakistan. It's called Shama'il al-Muhammadiyah. Shama'il al-Muhammadiyah. This is, it's actually a classical work done by Imam at-Tirmidhi, where he gathered descriptions of the Prophet ﷺ, all about what he looked like, how he walked, his clothes, his hair, dress, food, all this stuff is put together, describing the Prophet ﷺ in detail. That book is a classic. Most of the hadiths are authentic. However, the English translated version, where this author from India wrote his own comments on the bottom, you will find in it great deviation. Great deviation. Beware of those comments. If you want to read the main text, okay, fine. But the comments that are coming on the bottom, where he's explaining how you can do it. If you want to see the Prophet ﷺ in a dream, you draw a picture of his sandal and you put it under your pillow when you go to sleep at night. And what is this stuff? Where is this coming from? this is deviation. This is extremism. Sahaba weren't known to do this, right? So beware of such texts. Is Islamic banking halal or riba? Again, Islamic banking is a general term, right? It may include those who are following the Sharia with regards to economics, Islamic economics from an Islamic perspective, or it may include those who are doing some of that and some of the other stuff, mixed. So we can't make a judgment on Islamic banking as a whole. Islamic banking is business. Because some people say, oh, it's not Islamic banking because you can't get Qard Hasan. If I want to get a goodly loan where they lend me 100,000 ringgit and I give them back 100,000 ringgit, they say they don't have that. So it can't be Islamic. No, it's business. It's business, okay? And you can't profit by lending 100,000 and getting back 100,000. The time it takes to give back that 100,000, inflation has caught up, the value of the 100,000 has shifted to 50,000. That's a loss. So Islamic banks are businesses. The issue is, do we run this business according to Islamic principles, financial transaction, business transaction principles, or are we not? I know the people say, but it's very similar. When you buy a car, you have to pay, this and that. And actually, in the Citibank, you get better rates. You get better rates. Well, the point is that, where Islamic banking is existing in a riba-based economy, world economy, naturally, for them to compete on the same basis is going to be difficult. For them to do what is correct is going to cost them more. So it will be more costly. But remember that the statement of the people in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, 1,400 years ago, enshrined in the Quran, إِنَّمَا الْبَيْعُ مِثْلُ الرِّبَى, that riba, interest, is just like regular business transactions. No different. They're looking the same. The point is, halal and haram, there are similarities. Wine looks like grape juice. Pork looks like goat. So the issue is not about looking alike, similarity. Yes, this is the decision of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He has made certain things haram because of the harm that is in them, that He knows. Sometimes we can also know and see it, and sometimes we can't. He said these things are haram, but for every haram thing, He has made 1,000,000 halal, which looks like it. But that's the test. Is music haram? Music as we know it today, wind and stringed instruments, adult female singers, haram, yes. Contributing kind or cash to humanitarian cause, even though it's not for Muslims, is this extremist? No. We can give charity to non-Muslims. It's not confined to Muslims. But of course, as they say, charity begins at home, so we should try to help out our Muslim brothers and sisters as much as possible. But of course, we have this, mu'alafatul qulub, even zakah, we can give to non-Muslims who are close to Islam to help encourage them to become Muslims even. The Christians here want to use Allah as God. The government says no. What's your view? Well, my view is that using Allah as God is okay. Christians using the term Allah is okay. That is the name which Islam teaches. Yeah. Is qasida or poetry reading, praising Allah and the Messenger, extremism? If in the qasida and the poetry it involves descriptions of the Prophet ﷺ which are exaggerating his characteristics, like Qasidatul Burda, which is the popular one by Al-Busiri, the popular one, which is read in these different recitals, it contains verses giving the attributes of Allah to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So, like that, it's not permissible. But otherwise, poetry, I mean, Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam had a poet, Hassan ibn Thabit. He was the poet of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he used to praise the Prophet ﷺ but within the bounds which are set by the Sharia. What is the correlation? No, we did it. Is it haram to visit and read Fatiha for the dead in the graveyard? Well, reading Fatiha for the dead in the graveyard, visiting the graveyard, of course, is halal. Actually for men and women. Even though some scholars hold that women should not go to the graveyard, period, I believe that the stronger position is that they can, but not frequent. Because the authentic narration which describes the people who are not allowed, he used the term zawarat as opposed to za'irat, which implies frequenting. But and we do have narrations from Aisha and elsewhere that they did go to the graveyards. So going to the graveyard is permissible, but reading the Fatiha for the dead, we don't have that from the Sunnah. In fact, the Prophet ﷺ had described the graveyard as a place where Quran is not read. Right? What is your opinion regarding an issue when some Muslims label other Muslims as Khawarij, but all of them are in the same manhaj? Of course, this is deviation. This is itself extremism. We don't label people in this way where they may differ with us, because it usually ends up being an issue of personalities. Because you don't follow the same sheikh that I do, then I'm going to label you as a deviant, as a Khawarij, and so on and so. We have to beware of that, even internal divisions that enter amongst us over personalities, not really over deen. We are being attacked by Western countries. Is the attack being led by Illuminati? Well, Illuminatis and these people are some unknown factor. It's been promoted and people get off into conspiracy theories, etc. No, shaitan is the head. Whatever you call those who follow him, whether you call them Illuminati or you call them, Knights Templar or whatever you're going to call them, they are the soldiers of Satan in this world. So, inshallah, they will be struggling against the truth, those who are trying to uphold the truth and to promote the truth. And know that they will be our enemies until the last day of this world. Inshallah. Barakallahu fikum.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I have 3 things to share with you before Sheikh ends up. First of all, you all invited for night lecture tonight, 8 o'clock in Manara TM building, telecommunication building, near UM Mid Valley, the building there. So Sheikh is going to deliver, inshallah, lecture entitled The Purpose of Life. So Muslim and non-Muslim welcome to attend the event. So if you have any friend who would like to, if you're free to invite him and bring him over, that will be a great opportunity for da'wah. Because we all, inshallah, should be calling in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is the first announcement. Second one, after we hear this encouragement, everybody here, we should participate in da'wah. Sometimes we cannot speak like the Sheikh, mashallah, he's a doctor, very good speaker. But we can help to spread the knowledge through, mashallah, like IOU, Islamic Online University. And Islamic Online University really want help from you today. As you know, the diploma we deliver free, and bachelor is very reasonable price. So, and we have students around the world. So that university to stand up and spread the knowledge need the fund and need your help. And Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in the hadith of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, ما نقص مال من صدقة. The money will not become less from donation, from sadaqah. So, and as you know, والصدقة تطفئ غضب الرب. Subhanallah, sadaqah donation turn off the anger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it's clean the sin. And we all make mistakes. So inshallah, I hope your heart to give as much you can for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and help this, mashallah, university to become a stronger and have more students and remain stronger, inshallah, in Asia and all around the world. And inshallah, hope that education will be spread around and the ilm change the world through education. So please, inshallah, I hope all of you to give something for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and seek the reward with ikhlas from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's the second. And the third one, as the Sheikh mentioned in the lecture about IOU, so I hope all of you also pass that information to everyone. So any person would like to seek knowledge in diploma, it's free, it's available in internet, in English. So as you know, the da'wah nowadays need English speaking. So you can seek the knowledge in English, okay? And also bachelor, also you can participate in that program. Then inshallah will be a da'iyah for a future. So I hope that you deliver the word in the mouth or whatever you can to spread to marketing or whatever, spread the news for IOU in Malaysia, inshallah, and all around the world through email, through Facebook, through wherever you can. So hope Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the knowledge will be spread around and you get reward, subhanallah, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I leave the
brochures.
Yeah, the brochure inshallah will be here about bachelor program. It's you can take and you can also read the information and pass to all your friends. So I hope you participate in something of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The people who are going to pass the books. Sister, can you pass it to them? And anyone would like to pay by a check, it's a form there. So anytime it's inshallah available. Jazakumullah khair.
As the brother was concluding concerning the Islamic Online University, we said there are many people here, not so much here in Malaysia, who cannot afford the program, even though, for example, in Africa, it is only $40 per semester, because we have a sliding scale depending on the level of economy of the various countries. The more developed, it's more. Maximum is $120 per semester for US, for UK, Malaysia. I'm not sure what exactly it's classified as, but I mean, I'm sure you're close to the higher developing countries, so the fee is about around that amount. But this, the need for others like in Indonesia and Philippines, etc., we are trying to have a fund for them to help students who can't afford even this small amount, so that they will be able to study, to again spread the knowledge of the Quran and the Sunnah amongst them. So we hope that you all would help us in fulfilling that intention. And we also, if any of you would like to volunteer to help on a voluntary basis, in other ways, the Islamic Online University can benefit from your skills or your time, then please, our brother Muaz, he is the official representative for the Islamic Online University here in Malaysia. He is based here at Yayasan Ta'aleem. Actually, Yayasan Ta'aleem has given full support to the IOU with regards to an office that they've provided for us here, and helping with giving our brother Muaz the position of representative here for the Islamic Online University. So we hope, inshallah, that you would help us to the best of your ability and to come forward, give your names if you'd like to help out in terms of volunteer work with the IOU, which is basically about conveying this message through da'wah to the community as a whole. And remember that the Prophet ﷺ had said, the best of you is the one who learns the Quran and teaches it to others. So this issue of passing on the knowledge is something highly rated in Islam. In fact, it makes one better. So, inshallah, I hope you benefited from the lecture this morning. We covered many questions. If you have further questions, you can email me or through our brother Muaz or through Yais and Ta'aleem, who I'm in direct contact with. You can send the emails to me. Inshallah, I will try to answer them for you. Barakallahu feekum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant. Astaghfiruka wa natubu ilaykum.